want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
We are the Mad Men of Masculinity.
Your home for healthy masculinity. We're just real men having real conversations for you.
Whoops, technical difficulties. Welcome to y'all's show,
Technical
y'all.
difficulties. Hey, I am Kirkin Samuels.
And I am Jason B. Kendrick with the technical difficulties.
And we are the Mad Men of Masculinity.
That's right. We're just real men having real conversations for you. Pretty please
For you. For those of you who might see us online, you can watch us on YouTube, Facebook, et cetera, et cetera. You might even see some clips on TikTok, et cetera, et cetera. This would be the unplanned version of me wearing all white and him wearing all black.
And we're just photo negatives each other. It's how we roll.
Which is ironic because I'm the brother between the two of us and he's not. So we're pretty much opsies. We're pretty much opsies
me under the
today.
bus like that. I don't understand.
I'm just saying. I'm just pointing out. Those of us, those out there that listen over the air, they don't get the benefit of seeing, what we rolling like. So I figured, I would let folks know, and I would let folks know that they should check us out, man. They should check it out on YouTube. And what do you seem to think we got? We got over like 500,000 views or something like that on YouTube or something. Is that what I saw?
YouTube, TikTok, all over the place. We everywhere.
Ain't nothing wrong with that, man.
These folks
are all right, dude. So last week, I had the opportunity to spend some time with my son and his wife and their new baby, my second granddaughter, and then my first granddaughter and her folks, my daughter and her guy, and as I was spending time with just the multi generations and all that kind of stuff, it was just a cool time to reflect on a lot of different things, and some of that time I got to spend mainly running errands for the ladies with the two new dads in the crowd. I was the one in the back seat, as we pulled up to all the drive-throughs and everything, and I was in the back seat just listening and watching those guys. I was also in the back seat paying for everything. So every time we pulled up somewhere,
Granddad roll.
That's what it is. And I got to thinking about that, man. I got to thinking about roles and just and I thought I wanted to, as I sat back there and inspiration comes in all kinds of ways. I thought I wanted to next time we got on here, man, I wanted to run by you and just pontificate on the different kind of levels, the different phases that we go through as men. And kind of get your thoughts on them.
Phases, or are we talking about like
just
infant, toddler, childhood, teenager, young
adult? And see, and the more I started thinking about it, the more I was thinking, there's kind of a catch-22 because none of this is really about like necessarily rank or structure or good or bad or where somebody should be and all these other kind of things. But just in observing kind of, at least the flow of my life, I got to thinking about, us as men, like when we get, in a way, I kind of do think that we should find ourselves at one level. And then when we've almost mastered that level, going to the next level. So I came up with 4 different levels from the, like I said, the perspective of, which happens to be 4 segments to the show, which from the perspective of, man, we find ourselves at this level and we should probably get this level before we move to the next level.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
I can see it. Well, yeah, it's kind of I wrote in a couple of my books, but the last one especially, there's phases to life and there's 4 stages of learning. There's the 4 phases of learning, which kind of goes hand in hand with what you're talking about because, there's unconscious incompetence. You don't know what you don't know. Conscious incompetence. Now, you don't know that. Conscious competence is when you're learning something. So like not you're thinking about, you got to tie your shoes. You got to think about how to tie. You're tying your tie. You got to think about how to tie it. Then unconscious incompetence is when you can do it without thinking. It's a habit now. And so, to your point, as you're going up in life, as you're going through these different phases, there comes a point where you're unconsciously incompetent as a man in a certain area. And now it's like, what's the new challenge? What's the new lesson? What's the new thing?
Yeah.
And of course, to your example, some of these things happen whether you're ready for them or not. Some of them just happen naturally, like you're a father,
Yeah.
and then your kid's grown, and now your kids are fathers. So that makes you a grandfather. Like, whether ready or not, here you go.
And so this is some of, and this, to that point, these are kind of the reflecting from the a multiple now. Grandpa, I go by Impa, but multiple Impa back to my boyish years. And so, if that being the case, if I can pitch these four levels, and I think maybe it is universal, or to some degree, just it is what it is. But the first level would be learning. I think as we are a young, even a boy getting up into whatever, and these again, not necessarily age specific, but I do think like from a graduation perspective, moving from one to the other. And I think that first phase in life, for a man is or should be learning, just absorbing, watching, growing, training, all that kind of stuff, but just learning.
Well, I feel like, I mean, yeah, there's obviously the more learning when you're younger, but I feel like we're always learning. I mean, you didn't know how to be a grandpa until you was one. You didn't know how to be a dad till you were one. So I think we're always learning, but I think maybe it's more like the conscious learning, like, knowing you're always learning. Cause I know I've run into some guys, you may have too, who, they just are who they are. They're not interested in learning anything else. That's it. They just know what they know. And hopefully they know all that and they're a master of whatever that is. But they're not really interested in learning anything else. That's it. I'm this way and that's it. So I think for most men, especially if you want to be a good man, you want to be an upstanding man, you want to be the best version of yourself you could be, you want to be consistently learning. Because I mean, the only constant is change. And so if you're not learning, then you're going to be caught off guard by some new thing that you didn't know anything about.
Yeah, I don't, and then I think about it, from a level perspective. None of these are necessarily confined to a certain age in life. But I do think, sorry, I got a cough. I do think, I do think that as we go through life, we find ourselves doing some of these throughout life, maybe all of them throughout life. But absolutely, we should spend the first part of our life just focused on learning.
Mhm. I think it happens naturally. I mean, we learn more than we'll ever learn the first 4 years of our life. I mean, we learn language, we learn manipulation, we learn, how to walk, how to talk, how to feed ourselves. We learn how to do all those things, the first 4 years of our life. But I think some of us fall off the learning wagon, as it were. They think, oh, that's enough. But continuing to learn, I think being proactive, even, I think most good men, especially the best, they're proactive. They know that this next stage is coming. They know they're not going to be teenagers forever. They know they're not going to be 20 something forever. They know, well, if I'm getting married, then there's probably a family on the way. Maybe I need to learn about taking care of a baby. Maybe I need to learn about how to be the best husband to my wife. Maybe I need to learn about retirement and finance and these different things. I think some of us, and for a lot of us, we tend to kind of go through life just haphazardly without really like thinking about what the future holds. And so there's not necessarily any conscious learning. It's probably more like, getting smacked in the face, like, oh, I better learn that now. There's a baby on the way, or I better learn this because, I'm getting old and retirement's on its way. So I think, yeah, definitely learning should be a full-time practice, but I think conscious learning and looking at your life through the stages will probably help you become a better learner and a better man, because you're like, okay, I'm not going to stay this way forever. I better learn the next thing.
And here's, and I think when I think about learning, first of all, I think, there's not necessarily a time frame. Um, I mean, that being said, when we are a young man, it's harder to learn the older you get. I mean, just not only our brains, neurology, and all that kind of stuff, but the more you get into life, and the more you have responsibilities, and the more you have all the other things that the other levels that I'm going to bring up here in the future segments. um, that if you have your, whatever your learning phases of life, generally speaking, buttoned up as far as your foundation of who you're going to be, whether that's learning a trade or just learning manhood or just observing all those kinds of things. And a lot of that should be why, in our younger years, we spend ourselves around older men because some of the things we need to learn are not necessarily in a book. But either way, our first phase of our life, the first phase of our life should be just absorbing everything we can, getting all of the tools that we're going to need to be the man that we're going to need to be sometime in the future.
Yeah, I mean, I can resonate with that quite a bit because that's one of the issues we're dealing with nowadays is that there's a lack of young men growing up with older men. There's a lack of the mentorship. There's a lack of kind of the father passing down his, wisdom, if you will, to the younger generation. So we have a lot of guys that didn't get that education, didn't learn those things, and so either they had to learn them on their own or they're just ill prepared for the world. And we see kind of both of those going on quite a lot right now. Guys don't know how to change the tire, they don't know how to change the oil, they don't know how to work on their car, they don't know how to do minor maintenance around the house. They can't unclog a drain, they can't change the light bulb, they can't change the socket or an outlet, they don't know how to change a fuse. So there's a lot of things that we should be definitely learning as younger men from the older generation, but then also continuing that thought process of learning throughout our lives because you never stop learning. I think even now you're getting to the point where probably since are almost even turning back where you start learning from the younger generation, like, well, how do I keep up with this and what's that about? So we're always learning, but yeah, focusing on learning when we're young is so huge. I mean, how can you be prepared for life if you don't take the time to learn and even focus on learning to that point? I mean, I guess that's why they put us all in school while we're young so we can get all this education. But I think there's a lot more education that we're missing that comes from older men to younger men, that comes from the elder generation to the younger generation that a lot of us are missing nowadays.
Yeah, and we ought not we ought not um, really push for young men to really skip this phase of life. Just be like, don't get too far ahead of the curve, man. Just learn right now. Like you're good. Learn your mistakes. Make your mistakes while you're young. Make your mistakes. If you're gonna break a bone, do it in your teens, right?
Yeah.
I mean, or beforehand. I mean, if you're gonna
I
play a
mean,
contact sport, don't do it when you're 40. I mean,
no,
these kind of things.
we don't
Make your
we
mistakes
don't
when you're
bounce no
young.
more.
Right. Earn your bones while you're young.
Yeah,
Because like I said, when I throw up these next levels, I think you'll kind of get a little bit where I'm coming from. But
yeah.
in terms of that first phase of life, man, I really think that it should just be, man, just learn right now. Learn all that you can.
Yeah, that's something that I think every older man would tell every younger man he meets, take your time. You're not in that big a hurry. Like take your time to learn, like, you know, learn as much as you can because there's many of us who didn't take our time. We wanted to be grown, we rushed it. Maybe we had kids when we were in high school, whatnot. We wanted to do these things and then didn't get that chance to really learn and get prepared. And so you learn the hard way. And so, speaking of the hard way, it's about time for us to take ourselves a hard break. Break, break, break. This is the Madmen of Masculinity. You are on KLDC in the Mile High City, and we'll be right back.
Man, this cough is killing me today, man. I've
What
got
you
this
doing,
like
man? You
tickle
gotta
right
stop
in the back.
smoking them tweeds.
I don't know, man. I got like just phlegm or something. I don't know. Something's going on.
Phlegm,
Whatever.
see? All right, I'm not even gonna make a joke,
Something,
man. We're just gonna move on. We're just gonna
some
move on. I'm gonna leave that
congestion or
alone.
something like that. Some sinus, something.
Well,
I don't know.
change the seasons. It's getting colder a little bit. All right, let's do it. Second, you got your second topic ready?
Yep.
All right.
Yeah. We're back.
We're back.
Your boys are back. On KLDC in the Mile High City, man. I'm telling you, we're on the interwebs everywhere. I just looking at my phone or my watch, and I have no idea why my phone was on an active call with my wife. So for some
That's
reason,
why you sound better all of a sudden. Now you're not, your audio's not split.
um, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know, man. My whole my whole thing is all over the place, man.
I know
Um,
she loves listening to your sexy voice and
we
all, but
are
we got stuff to
talking
do right now.
about levels, man. We're talking about levels to this thing, and and man, I just and like I said, I was kicking it around with kids and grandkids, and I realized, like, man, there's some things that I wish I would have been told. I wish I would have known back in the day in terms of the things to focus on and the things to look
You and me
forward
both.
to. And like I said, in the first segment, I talked about the first phase in life, man. For us as men, should just be learning. And then I think, like, the second level, once we have learned, I think the second thing we should focus on is career. I think after we have learned, then it should be about establishing a career, establishing, some kind of, I don't, whether that's a trade or whether, I don't know, whatever it is, but we should establish that for ourselves and for our own identity. But that should be the next thing to come after whatever phase. And again, not necessarily time specific, but once we have mastered the learning phase, I think we ought to then pivot to mastering some kind of a career, some kind of profession, some kind of professional phase in life.
Well, you would think during the learning phase, I mean, part of the learning is trying things out. Part of learning is trying to figure out what you're good at, what you like, what are your skills, what are you not good at, and then honing in on what you are good at, what you like to do, and turning that into some sort of career. Because those who do that tend to not work a day in their life because they're focused on something they're good at. Number one, probably number two, they love to do. And so when you take the time to learn and try different things to find your thing, to find what you want to make your career, then you become even more foundational as a man because you've taken the time to figure out what it is you're good at, what you want to do, what you love to do. And as you find that thing, then it's much easier to go through all the trials and tribulations of life because you have a focus. And a lot of men nowadays are kind of unfocused. They feel like they're, in a ship without a rudder and they're just kind of all over the place because they don't have a career. They don't have a foundational focus. They don't have this thing to live for. Sometimes it comes accidentally. Sometimes you all of a sudden have a family and now, like, oh, I have a child on the way. Now I have that focus. But then you may just be working whatever kind of job. It may not be your career or your skill set or something you love to do, but taking the time to learn from elder men and mentors to figure out what you're good at. And a lot of times older men who've been around the block a few times, who've done several different careers and worked with a lot of younger men can look at you and talk to you and be, hey, you might want to think about this, or at least look in this direction because you seem to have this aptitude. And they can see those things because they've been around the block, they have some experience. But not having a career and just working a 9 to 5 or just working a job, a job for the paycheck, can put a lot of men in the early grave because that's not their passion. That's not what they love to do. And it may not even be their skill set. It's just something they got stuck in doing.
Yeah, men generally also identify by work or by profession, or at least having one anyway. Um, and so I think to establish, and again, these are just this is another foundational building block before next things in life. But but to be able to figure out what your niche is, what your professional, your vocational, your whatever that is for you, again, the thing that you're passionate about. Maybe it's time to chase a passion. Maybe it's time to chase a dream, or I want to go start this or explore this. I want to go see if I can, put some circuits together and make a box we call a computer. Or, I want to go invent something, or I want to go be an entrepreneur. I want to go, whatever in the military. I want to go learn a trade. I want to go whatever. But either way, to be able to have a phase in life where your main goal, your main focus on a daily basis is work, and that's it. Like, I'm working. I'm working to establish myself. I'm working to build a foundation for for other things in the future. But to be able to have a period in time where that is your thing, then again, it also gives you an opportunity to take risks. Risk is a lot easier when you're younger and have less responsibility. Risk is a lot easier when you're not, you don't have such a fear of failure when you're younger. And so, so whatever that phase is in life, man, I think to be able to have time as a man to just focus on a career, I think is good for a man.
Yeah. Well, and just to even backpedal a little bit, there's nothing if you got a job and you're working paycheck to paycheck, and I mean we all got to eat, you got to pay bills, but if you're doing something just for the money and it's not your passion, it's not your purpose, it's not something that lights you up, use that job to finance your passion. Use that job. I mean, that's one of the things that Kirk and I do. This isn't what we do full time all the time, but we love doing this. This is part of our purpose, this is part of our passion, and we hope to do this one day full time. So use what you're doing right now, use that job, use that 9 to 5 to fund your passion and your purpose. I know there are a lot of guys, you start a job or maybe you're in college and then the girl gets knocked up and now all of a sudden you got to get a real job because you got to pay for the kid and the bills and everything else. Don't let that stop you. Some of the most inspiring men that we know started off that way and then decided, instead of midlife crisis or instead of getting a sports car or whatever, or a young girlfriend, they decided to find their passion. They decided to find their purpose and they moved in that direction and they funded that through their job. So it's much easier to work that job. It's much easier to work those hourly jobs than 9 to 5 when you're using that for a purpose of finding your passion and funding your passion. Because there's so many things that we as men want to do, and pretty much everything takes money. It's time, energy, and money. You got to have the resources, you got to have the time, and you got to have the energy to do it. So sometimes you need to have something that will fund that. So if you're not doing your passion right now, if you're not loving what you're doing right now, use that job to fund it.
Yeah. And that's actually a great twist. And, now that you say all that, I think my thought um, is even clarified a little bit more in terms of when I say, for me, like this phase that I'm talking about right now, maybe it should be not even just work. It should include your purpose and your passion. Really, what is your purpose in life? What is that thing? If you're passionate about rock climbing, man, that guy, Alex Arnold, I mean, he was out there, when he was a teen and 20-year-old climbing up El Capitan, with no rope kind of thing. I mean, these guys find their path. If your passion is skiing or snowboarding or dirt biking or surfing or skateboarding or I don't know, whatever it is,
Right.
travel,
Music, whatever it
all
is.
that, all that kind of stuff, man. Go find, go search that, go seek that kind of stuff. Find the thing that lights you up. Find the thing that gives you your niche, whether that's your purpose or your passion. There are people who make a full-time living, a good full-time living, just on social media,
Yeah.
just traveling the
Oh, yeah.
world. I mean, just
That's
doing anything, man. So go do it.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, you are so lucky right now, young men, to have social media, to have these opportunities. I mean, you can get a following doing anything, doing TikTok videos, doing YouTube videos. You can get a follow doing anything and get a big enough following to fund your life, to fund your passion, to fund your career. I mean, back in the day, you had to get sponsorships, you had to have somebody finance you, you had to get sponsors, you had to get money from somewhere. And nowadays, you can actually develop that money through the internet, through social media, through all these different platforms to fund those things. So you got it good right now when it comes to finding your passion. But like I said, if you're not in your passion right now, because everybody's life's different. Every man's life has its own trajectory, has its own path. Some of you didn't get I'm learning from this age, I'm doing my career from this age. Some of you are bouncing around. I was one of those. First 30 years of my life, I was bouncing around trying all kinds of different things, living all over the place. Then you kind of start to hone in. Once you've honed in, you get the idea that this is my purpose, this is my passion, because this is what works for me. This is something I want to share with the world. Use whatever it is you have now to fund that. Use whatever it is you have now to put that out in the world. And then start getting people around you, start getting other guys around you to help you focus, help you stay on track, to help you stay motivated, because we all get that inspiration. And that inspiration will come in a flash and it can burn out just as fast. Like, oh, I'm going to write a book. I'm going to do this talk. I'm going to start this thing. And then you need those guys around you to keep that motivation going, because it's going to get hard. You don't grow things overnight. You plant the seeds, you water them, and you hope they grow. It takes some time. So get some guys around
Yeah.
you that believe in you, see your potential, and believe in your dreams just as much as you do.
Yeah. The other another thing about finding your passion, your purpose, um, you know, a profession, those kind of things during, this particular phase of life that I'm talking about is you also get a sense of identity. You get a sense of this is who I am. This is like this is what lights me up. Like this thing is, if you're like I said, if you're a biker, go be a biker. If you're a climber, go be a climber. If you're whatever, but either way, you have a sense of this is who I am, and a sense of security that comes along with that. Where you're not looking for somebody to complete you because you're already complete. I mean, there are, especially this next phase that I'm going to talk about the next segment. You're not looking for, you're not a Jerry Maguire. You complete me. That's fiction. You need to be complete at some point. So that, and as you add something to the world in this phase of life that I'm talking about, in terms of, like I said, whether it's purpose, passion, profession, whatever it is, this
Okay.
3P stage of life, man, you need to have that established.
Yeah, and when it comes to finding your purpose and passion, I mean, don't judge yourself. I know a lot of times I get stuck into that, comparison thing where I want to compare myself to somebody else because I'm this age, but that guy was 21 when he made $1 million, or that guy was this age, or that guy did this or that. Don't compare. Know that your journey is your journey, and wherever you're at is perfect because you always do. This is one thing I want you to like pay attention to, whether you're in the learning stage or you're in the career stage or purpose stage. You're always doing the best you can with what you have. If you could do better, you would, but you don't because you don't know. And it's not until you learn through whatever stage you're in that you learn those lessons to do better. So, whatever stage you're in, wherever you're at, you're perfect right now. Just know that you keep learning, you keep growing, you'll find your purpose and your passion. And you are doing the best you can. So, don't try to compare yourself to somebody else who did it younger or bigger or whatever. You're doing you. And speaking of doing you, we're going to do y'all a break. This is the Mad Men of Masculinity. You're listening to us on KLDC, and we will be right back.
All right. Man, as I was sitting there riding with those guys, man, like I said, I was like, man, I wish I would have known or
Wish
heard some
you would have
things
had
back when
you
I
at that
was
time in
young.
your life. Wish you
Yeah,
would have
I
been in the
wish I
back
would have
seat.
had. I wish I would have had me in the back seat of the truck. Like I didn't
Yeah.
even, it was those guys. Yeah, I mean, I wish I would have, because man, I didn't know. And you don't even know what
Yeah.
you don't know at that age.
Oh
You
no.
don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
But
There's so much, but I
right,
mean, now you get to pass down all the stuff you learned the hard way and be like, hey, let
right,
me make your life
right,
a little easier.
right.
You all right? Ready
All
for
right,
you
let's
ready for
roll.
three?
Yep. And we're back.
Yes, we're back.
We are back. The Madmen of
Round three,
Masculinity,
y'all.
KLDC 1220 AM in the Mile High City on the interwebs everywhere.
Everywhere. Yeah, we're
Interesting
here for y'all.
conversation today. We're just talking about levels of life and levels of a man's journey. And, man, I graduated high school. I went to college, and and right at the end of college, right after college, in college I had a scholarship. Right after that, ended up meeting somebody, and shortly, baby comes along, and end up getting married, start a whole new career, and all this other kind of stuff. Just launched off in life, and now being able to look back and finding myself in the back seat with two young men at an earlier stage in life, I was like, man, I wish I would have had somebody to kind of impart some wisdom. So I talked about the first level or the first stage should be just learning. That's the only thing you focus on is learning.
Learn as much as
Second
you can.
stage should be purpose, passion slash profession, all of those kinds of things. Get good at something, get great at something, go pursue that thing. Man, if you want to be a gamer, go be a professional gamer. There's people that make millions of dollars
Yep.
gaming. You could, if you want to be the best poker player in the world, you'll be a millionaire many times over. I mean, you name it. And so that phase of life is all about that. So I think the third phase, then once you've established my learning, I've learned X, Y, and Z, I've applied, A, B, and C in my profession, my passion, my profit professional stage in life, purpose stage. Then it should be about relationship. Then it should be about, okay, now I'm ready. I have something to offer. I have an identity. I have learned some stuff. I have purpose, passion, profession. I have all those things. Now I'm ready to lead a family. Now I'm ready to be the husband, the father, that sort of thing in a household and all that. But those things, you got to have some things established. You don't want to get all of that before you go through all the other stuff, because then you're going to be playing catch up, and then life becomes about what you have to do, not what you want to do. Up until this point in life, it's about what you want to do. Man, if I want to go eat ramen for the next week, then that's cool. All I need is a couple dollars a day kind of thing. If I want to go to Thailand, I'm gonna go to Thailand. If I want to whatever. But once you get into the relationship phase, man, it is. And when I say relationship, I'm talking formal relationship. I'm talking engagement, marriage, kids, family, that kind of stuff. Because at that point, it's what you want to do is gone. Like your want to do days are over. Period. You can kiss those goodbye. Get a handkerchief and wave as you pulling away from the pier, because
You should got
that
to
is
do
done.
days now, baby. You should got to do
It's
days.
all about your nickname has got to do. First
Yeah.
name is Bob. Your last name
Honeydew,
has got
gotta
to
do.
do. I mean, because it's about life is what you got to do, man. It's
Yeah.
like I got to,
Well,
and so I think the third phase is the relationship is the got to do phase.
yeah. Well, and yeah, I mean, ideally, if we had a good mentor, if we had a good father, it's like, hey, son, this is how things are going to progress. You need to learn as much as you can. You need to find your passion and get your career started. You need to build that wealth and then start your family. Awesome. Probably 50% of guys, maybe closer to 25%, get that opportunity. Most of them are learning on the go. But the best thing to do, the best thing that the consolation prize, if you didn't get to go through those stages in that order, and you're with the relationship, building a career, doing all those things, you can still learn. You can still get mentorship. You can still get guys around you. You can still get a crew and a squad to help you with those things and to be there for you. But I mean, ideally, if you have a son right now, you got a young man, and you want to teach him those phases and be like, hey, son, this is how life works the best. This is how you build the best foundation for yourself. Learn as much as you can. Find your passion, find your strengths, build a career, get that money, get that foundation, then start your relationship. That would be great. Ironically, that's what the feminists are teaching the women now. It's like, do those things that way. Granted, for men, there's no
Mhm.
baby timeline. So, I mean, we don't have that. So we have a longer window to do that in. So it's not necessarily as rushed. But I mean, ideally, we all want to have that. We want to have our learning done, or at least completed to a point where we have an idea of our career and our passion, our purpose. And we want to be making money doing that and have that foundation so we can build a family. But as we see out in the world, the majority of people don't do it that way, but they still succeed. They still have a family, they still have a career, they still build those things. This might be an easier way to do it, having it in those phases, having it in those stages, but you can still do those things. So if you're listening to us and you're like, oh man, I screwed it up. I had the relationship and then got the career. So it still works. That's just ideally the best stages to do it in.
I'm not going to be Captain Optimistic here. I'm gonna be Colonel Real. I'm gonna be General Realistic here. And
Uh-oh.
I mean,
Colonel
this
Jessup,
is
you can't handle the
so.
truth.
And you can't handle the truth. I'm being Colonel Jessup right now, man. I'm on the stand, and Lieutenant Caffey is pressing me for
Go
did
get
I
him.
order the code red? I'm telling you, the code red on what you want to do in life is when you settle down with family and kids. And I'm not hating against all that kind of stuff. I'm just saying you need to understand. I'm speaking to teenager and early 20-something-year-old guy. I'm telling you, don't rush into that. I see guys rushing into that, whether it's, irresponsibility in terms of having unprotected sex and getting somebody pregnant, or I want to hurry up and have the family and kids kind of thing, and not realizing that, there's a phase of life, there's a window in time where you should just go be a young Thundercat. Man, you
Mhm.
should just go run the streets, man. You should just go travel. You should just go do stuff
Yeah.
before you get to that point as a man, because you don't want to be at that point as a man and thinking, man, I never got to, because once you get to that point, you ain't gonna get to. I mean, these are just the realities of life. I'm telling you, once you have, kids and a family, things change, and there are some honorable and some great things about that. I'm not hating on that at all. I'm saying there is a phase in life for that, but it should not come too soon. You should have done certain things in life before you get to the point of having, a spouse and or kids, because at that point, I'm telling you, at that point, you lose some of the agency of being just a young free agent male, of I can just go do some stuff. I can go conquer the world, take over the world kind of thing. There's a reason why the military has certain restrictions on who they'll let in to boot camp. And some of those restrictions are age, and some of those restrictions are family. You can't go to boot camp if you got two, three, four kids at home. You just can't. I mean, they have cutoffs for that kind of stuff because they need you to be a warrior. They need you to be deployable. I mean, and so I'm just going to be real in terms of, guess what, young men? Here's the reality. Once you cross that bridge, and it's beautiful having kids, man. I mean, it's beautiful having a little baby. It's beautiful having, you know, um, a wife or a lady in your life and all those kinds of things. The reality is, if you haven't, I'm not even going to say sow your wild oats or nothing like that, but if you haven't gone and just being a do whatever I want to do today guy, for some period of time, there's going to be part of you that, it's going to be like, man, I never got that. And you hope that you get a chance to do that later on in life. But before you get to, after certain other phases, then there's where I get to the point of, okay, now you're ready for wife and kids. But there's going to be a part of you that has a little bit of hesitation or maybe even regret if you get to that phase too soon.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we see it on the other side a lot now too. The hot girl summer, the hot mom summer that's going on. Since they felt like they missed something, and there is some truth to that. I mean, you talk about you can't handle the truth. There are a lot of men who get into these situations that don't think about the long term consequences. They don't think about the responsibility. They don't think about what that means to raise a child and how much responsibility, how much energy, how much of your time that takes, and then they still think they can go sow the wild oats and be that dude while they got a wife and a kid. They're still trying to live that life. Go out and live that life in your teens and 20s. Go out and do those things so you don't feel like you missed anything. And so that you can actually pass that on. There's so many boys out there and young men who didn't get that mentorship from their father. They didn't get that mentorship from an older man to tell them these are the stages of life, and don't rush into marriage. Don't rush into a family. Make sure you have time to figure out who you are. There's a lot of people who figure out who they are after they have the kids. There are a lot of people who figure out, and sometimes it's to the detriment of the kids because he doesn't know who he is. He doesn't know how to handle that kid because he doesn't know who he is. And then so a lot of times that kid suffers because dad's learning because he's too young and he's growing up while that kid's growing up. He's growing up with his kids. And then, and there are other stages too. I mean, you want to think about these stages in this way. There's the amateur phase or the apprentice phase. There's the journeyman phase. Then there's the expert phase. And after the expert phase is the trainer, the mentor, or the sage. And so you want to make sure once you get into the expert phase, you've had the apprentice and journeyman phase. That means getting out in the world, learning things, being you, figuring out who you are so that you're not learning while you got somebody there that you need to be teaching, that you need to be mentoring. The kids need you to be the best version of yourself you can be. And if you haven't been out in the world to learn who you are, sometimes you learn on the job, and it's not always good.
That's why I said in the last segment, you get a sense of identity with your passion, your purpose, your profession. You get a sense of establishment, like you have grounded yourself. You've also, like I said, explored your likes, your dislikes. You've explored and learned who you are and all those kinds of things. Maybe if you've gone out and been able to be a young Thundercat, you're not at home wishing you were out with some other chick or whatever. Man, it's like I've been there, done that, man. I'm not impressed by chicks. Like, so what? And so, that kind of stuff is important. But then you get to the point where you have something to offer to a kid and to a wife.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all about the experience, and experience is gained from time and activities and doing stuff and traveling, and a lot of times your best experience comes from mistakes you made. And you really would much rather make those mistakes while you're young, while there's somebody backing you. Maybe your parents are still around, and if it gets too bad, they can bail you out of jail, or they can, help you pay that bill that you didn't, take care of. But you want to make a lot of those mistakes and learn from those mistakes while you're younger, because it's easier when you don't have all those things. Once you got the house, you got the kids, you got the career, you got the wife, it's not so easy to make those changes, and those lessons become much deeper and much harder. So learn as much as you can young. Be that apprentice. Learn from those older sages and wise men. Get into that journeyman phase and master your skills, master who you are, and then jump into that family and jump into those relationships.
Yeah.
And speaking of relationships, time we're going to relation ourselves our break. It's our last break, y'all. We're the Madmen of Masculinity. You're listening to us on KLDC, and we'll be right back.
Dude, you totally stole my thunder for the last segment.
What did I do?
Sure.
See, if you don't give me a script, I don't know when I'm stepping on your toes.
I know. Yeah, I know. I thought about that. But like I said,
But yeah,
man,
it just
you
happens
should
naturally.
I mean, once you get to the point of having a family, kids and all that, man, it's then you're holding up weight for the household. You're holding up the space, you're holding up the roof. And there's a lot of pressure that comes with that. I mean, you are responsible for for providing and protecting everybody, and oftentimes you should get the big piece of chicken, but oftentimes it's the last piece of chicken and the coldest piece of chicken.
You eating over the sink while everybody else is sleeping.
Right.
Just it reminds me of a joke.
You
One of my
know,
favorite comedians is Chad Daniels. He talks about that. He's like, he gave his teenage daughter a list of her chores, and she's like, "Where's your list?" And he's like, "Excuse me, what?" She's like,
yeah,
"Where's your list?" He's like, subtract those three things I gave you to do, and everything
yeah,
else that makes this house run, and you know how you
right.
woke up in a bed warm and fed. That's my list. Check, check, check.
Yeah.
Because you got to be the foundation, you got to be the pillars,
Yeah.
you got to be the roof, you got to be all that.
Mhm. Yep.
All right, what's the
All
fourth
right.
one? Are you just going to surprise me since I already ruined it?
Well, you kind of already ruined it, but I'll go
Yeah.
there anyway.
Sorry, y'all, I ruined it.
Real.
You ready?
Mhm. We are back.
We back.
Mad Men of Masculinity, KLDC 1220 AM, Mile High City, Denver, Colorado, home of your favorite Denver,
Number one,
Colorado sports team.
Denver Broncos.
Shout out Broncos, shout out Nuggets,
Shout out,
shout
go
out
Knicks.
Avalanche,
Knicks is
shout
killing it,
out
man. Knicks is the problem.
shout out all of them. I'd be nice if we could shout out the Rockies at some point, but
Well, one of these
I don't know.
days. One of these days.
I'd be happy when we get some banana ball teams out here. That'd be great.
Yeah,
Anyhow,
they fun. They fun. They be dancing and
side
stuff.
note.
Hey,
Today
sorry
we're
for
talking
ruining.
about
What I ruined?
levels, man. You ruined it, man. I was talking
What I
about different
ruined?
levels of manhood and man, things that I've learned looking back now from from a grandpa perspective.
Because you old
I
now.
talked about being in the learning phase of life, just learning and gathering and growing in every possible way. I talked about just the purpose, passion, and profession part of life, where you can just go and explore and just go out in the woods and just go sleep in a hammock and by yourself. You ain't got nothing to worry about. Um, do what you want to do kind of thing. And then, once you have all that established, you've gotten all that out, then you go, get your relationship and get your family and get your, your kid and your lady and your household and all those kinds of things. Because you've established so many things, you have something to offer, you're ready to hold up space, you're ready to hold up the roof, you have your identity, all those kinds of things. And then once you get past, and not even past, but once you have established that over some period of time, over some years, then I think that last phase is about leaving your legacy. I think that last phase is about your last phase in life is just, okay, what now do I leave behind? What memories, what what lineage, what legacy, what is the weight of the ship that is going to be behind the story of my life. And so that last segment, and again, how who know none of us know how many years, the last phase of our life is going to be. But either way, I think, that last level should just be about the legacy that I leave behind.
Yeah, I mean, if we train our young men, if we are mentors to our young men and we pass down the knowledge that we have, hopefully they will do the same thing. And by teaching the stages of life, like you're going to be the apprentice, you're going to be learning, you're going to be the journeyman, you're going to pick up your career and your passion and generate that foundation. You're going to have a family. Now, what are you going to do with all those things you learned? There's no greater gift to give anyone than passing down the knowledge you have. There's no greater gift that any wise man, any elder, any man who has experience can give than passing down his experience to save the younger generation time, to give them some wisdom. Granted, they're probably going to be knuckleheads like we all were and not listen half the time, but one day they'll be like, oh, yeah, dad or grandpa or whoever, you were right. I was a knucklehead. I didn't want to listen. I thought you were full of it. No, we passed down our wisdom. We pass down our knowledge to save the younger generation time, but also so they can take what we have given them and add to it. It's all about addition and multiplication. They want to add to what we give them, but they can't add to anything if you don't take the time to walk them through the stages, take time to teach them something. So if you're an older gentleman, if you're longer in the tooth, if you've got some age and wisdom, stop yelling at the kids to get off your porch, bring them in the yard, teach them something. There's so many kids out there that need a gentleman with some wisdom to teach them how to change a tire, teach them how to do just little work around the house, just to teach them little nuggets of wisdom. You never know what little thing you say to a younger man will impact him for the rest of his life because you said it. So share your wisdom, share yourself, share your knowledge. You never know how much you're making the world a better place by just sharing what you know.
Dude, I think I was probably 50 years old before I would consider myself ready for a relationship or ready for marriage.
That sounds about right, though.
And
That's about right for
I
guy.
mean, again, and so, for me to think back to getting married at 23, for
Mm,
me personally, like I had no tools. I was not equipped at all. And so, and that being said, to have, I got to celebrate my anniversary last weekend. We went to go see the play Lion King.
oh,
And
nice.
so I'm thinking about what we're talking about now. Man, there was a part in the play where Mustafa just he was teaching Simba, just teaching him about wisdom and about this is going to happen, and the stars are the ancestors looking. I mean, just all this other kind of stuff where he passed down that information, he passed down that wisdom, to his next in line. He passed down the lineage of his kingship when he died. But before that, he passed down some wisdom. And, and then a couple of weekends ago, just getting to spend, just some time with my son, just sitting there, just the two of us, man. And we have a lot of conversations. And I hope that I've told him several things that if he would have listened to me, his life would have been better. And
Well,
so
you can.
hopefully,
Hey, always
hopefully
gonna listen
now
the
I'm
first time.
thinking, hopefully now I'm thinking if I just drop some other nuggets, the dots will connect and he'll say, man, that guy knew what he was talking about on the other stuff. Maybe I ought to listen to him on this stuff. But probably not because he's 22, but whatever.
Well,
But one day, just like in the Lion King, one day those echoes of my voice will come back. I believe that one day is the echoes of who I am in his life, and I hope the same thing for my granddaughters. I hope the same thing for just all of my kids and grandkids. That hopefully some of the words that I have said or some of the things that I've tried to impart with them, they'll hear them at some point in the future, whether I'm around or not.
Yeah, I mean, we as men, I mean, I know it's hard nowadays. All the media is like, oh, you old after 20, you old after this, and old people are just boomers and they don't know nothing and they're antiquated. Yeah, embrace the grays, embrace the grays and embrace the years because they're hard earned, and you're still here means you have something to share. If you're still here, don't just isolate yourself. Don't just go move off in the woods in the cabin unless you nuts. Then go ahead and we'll let you go ahead. But for the rest of us, share who you are. There's life has more meaning when you share your wisdom, when you share your knowledge, when you have something to share. And for most of us guys, we get to a point where we've learned all the stuff, we've built the career, we've had the family, and then it's like, well, now what? Well, now you get to share. That will give your life purpose. That'll make you live a lot longer. That'll make you feel like you are contributing. Share, become that sage. Like once you've gone through those other phases, I mean, you didn't go through those other phases for nothing. Not you're not just running some kind of race. Share what you learned. Save some young man some time. And to Kirk's point, don't expect them to listen the first time. They might not even listen the third time. But at some point, what you tell them is going to resonate, and you are going to save them some time. You are going to save them some headache, and you will be sharing yourself, and your legacy will continue because you shared your wisdom, you shared your grace, you shared your knowledge. Those are the things that, I mean, you get to a certain point, all you have is knowledge because you physically can't do the work anymore. You may not have the capacity to make $1 million anymore or to build a new business, but you still have that knowledge, you still have that experience, you still have that wisdom. Share it, please. Share it with your next generation, share it with the younger generation, share it with somebody.
And there implies the cycle of life. To go back to the Lion King, you know, I,
Sorry, yeah.
wisdom is applied knowledge or applied information. It's one thing to have information. Google has taken care of that. We got all the information we need. All you got to do is say a certain female's name. I won't say it now because it'll respond in the room and ask any question, and and there'll be a response. You got AI now and all these other bots that'll answer any question. Information is not the issue; it's the wisdom. And so when you get through all of those phases, and then you're able to apply some information, apply some knowledge, then again, ideally, it goes right back around to now you get to be that sage. You get to pour into younger generations who should be in the phases of life of learning, right? And then it goes all over again. And so, when you get to this last phase in life, being able to pass that down, that should be okay. That should be the focus. What am I leaving behind? What legacy? What inheritance? All those kinds of things. What stories? What identity? What memories? All those kinds of things. What am I leaving behind as a man? Because when you're gone, the only thing that people will have is the memories of you,
Yeah.
and those things that you left behind for them.
Yeah, and to all you young knuckleheads who are in the learning phase, who think you know it all, just remember the most successful men, the billionaires out there, are the most teachable. The most successful men in the world are the most teachable. They're still learning, even though they know all the stuff. They're always learning. They know they can learn something from somebody. Some knuckleheads, you can't tell them nothing. They know everything. But if you're a smart young man and you know you're in the learning phase, find older men with experience. Find older men to save you time to learn from. There's a lot of times, I mean, just there's things that you don't even realize they know that you don't know. Like I was pulling nails out of some wood at work the other day with some guy and watching him just struggle. And I'm like, dude, you're making it so much harder on yourself. Just turn it over, tap the nail from the other side. Now you can get it. Now you can pry it out. Just you don't even know how much time you can be saving by learning from an older man. So just because you're young and full of all that stuff and think you know everything, you don't. And the wisest and the smartest, most successful young men are the ones who search out mentors. You search out an older man, you search out somebody with some wisdom and knowledge, and you learn from them. Take what you can from them because they will save you so much time. And you'll be that much more successful by taking the time to learn from an older man.
And for men who are older, we need to seek out opportunities to pass down wisdom. We need to seek out opportunities to leave some of these things that we've learned behind. I think the older we get as men, generally speaking. I mean, obviously, I'm not talking about everybody, but generally speaking, good men. The older we get, the more wise we are. We may
Hopefully.
forget stuff. We may forget memory, information, all that kind of stuff. But we have wisdom. We have wisdom because we've lived it, and that's one thing you can't replace is the time factor of living life. And so, but us as men, we ought not die with wisdom still in our hearts, in our soul. We ought to die with our wisdom tanks on empty, finding some kind of way to pass that out, whether it's online or whether it's in a group or some mentorship or something like that. find ways to pass that kind of stuff on. I love what our friend Torrance is doing with, you know,
Master's apprentice, yeah.
with the master's apprentice and working with young men in the trades, mostly young men in the trades, passing down some of that information, some of that wisdom. You
Yeah.
know, a lot of things that we've done. I mean, we've done some rite of passage stuff and all that, but just we ought to find ways, find opportunities to pass down some wisdom to younger generations.
Yeah. Just remember, young men and older men, the richest place in the world is the graveyard because of all the unshared wisdom, all the dreams never fulfilled, all the art never done. Don't let the graveyard continue to be the richest place in the world. Share your riches, share your wisdom, make the world a better place. And until next time, we are the Madmen doing our little bit to make the world a better place. We love y'all. We are out.